Hey everyone. It's no surprise that most of the people that are seen as incredibly nice and positive just put up an act to seem so in front of all their fans. And there's no better place to look at than the cesspit that are talk shows and the people that host them. Because it seems that there's a certain requirement demanded from those shows where you have to act extremely happy and surprised by everything, no matter how minute it is. Which I have to admit, I sort of respect, because most of these people have turned out to be horrible human beings off camera. So they probably want you to pull out their teeth every time you go on air because of how extremely fake they have to act. But you do get small glimpses of them acting like themselves whenever they are in public, and you swear that they sound like actual children from the stories people have told about them. If there were videos of these, they'd be great. But to be honest, hearing the stories, it's just enough.
John Cusack famously called Hollywood a whorehouse, a place where people go mad, and that's because Hollywood is full of fakes and frauds, some of the most narcissistic and worst individuals alive. But some, however, are even more vile than others. Take Ellen DeGeneres, for example, a hypocrite of epic proportions. You see, Ellen constantly pleads with her viewers and fans to be kind to one another. She even sells products with the words "be kind." Be kind is quite literally her brand, but maybe she should change this to "be cruel." That would certainly be more reflective of her character.
It really is unfortunate because she has the perfect face for like some nice person that could actually do some good, but she is like well known for being hated so much.
17 years after the Ellen DeGeneres show first aired, BuzzFeed published a bombshell piece outlining the many ways in which the ostensibly charitable host was an absolute phony, a wolf in expensive suit pants.
I love that word so much. Phony.
Bully, someone at total odds with her on-screen persona. BuzzFeed News interviewed both current and former staff members from the Ellen DeGeneres show, all of whom requested to be anonymous due to concerns of facing punishment from the host and the NBC network. Some disclosed that they were terminated after taking medical leave or bereavement days to attend family funerals. Additionally, one employee who was tired of enduring comments about her race decided to quit her job. Furthermore, some employees—
The engine of the Ellen show is very fragile. It can never stop.
Especially if they encountered her in the office. In other words, never ever try to initiate a conversation with her. Ellen, a true elitist, had no interest in conversing with the poorly paid. She doesn't want to talk to the peasants, only those she can get more power from. In March of 2020, comedian Kevin Porter kicked off a now infamous Twitter thread, encouraging people to share the most insane stories you've heard about Ellen DeGeneres being mean, and they did. And today, the tweet has more than 2,500 replies. One person commented, "My brother is a wish kid. His wish was to be at the 12 Days of Ellen, which was arranged. 1 month before, they cancelled because Ellen refuses to interact with disabled people."
Okay, that has to be fake. I'm sure it did happen, but I feel like he twisted the truth a little bit. There's no way someone, like some associate from the show, flat out said she doesn't want you to interact with disabled people. And if they did, surely you would give like some recompensation for the time wasted.
More years ago, I sent Ellen a letter. She ended up reading it on air, totally making fun of me and laughing at me. I was humiliated. I haven't been a fan since then. Another ex-user shared a story about Ellen making a big deal on air about adopting a puppy, but once the show was over, told someone to get rid of it. It was as hard for me to believe this.
I was gonna make some horrible joke about her like dashing the brains out, but that's too bad.
Goes on and on, with hundreds—
Even what she did was pretty cruel as well, just giving up on the dog right after the camera turned off.
If even 10% of these are true, then Ellen is an absolute monster. Quote, "I think it's a lot of smoke and mirrors when it comes to the show's brand," one former employee told BuzzFeed. "They pull on people's heartstrings. They do know that's going to get likes and what people are going to go for, which is a positive message, but that's not always reality." And indeed—
No, it's not. I don't think it's that hard to describe it as smoke and mirrors. I mean, when you watch one episode of a show, you can see like how many people are on the stage as like an audience. I mean, not on the stage, just like at the back. But they all sit down and clap and laugh at her horrible jokes. For that, I think it's easier to make yourself seem like a nice person to them because they're more like an abstract group as opposed to one person where you have to be very direct with what you say. Because I feel like most guests on the show are so ecstatic at being on the show that they don't really try to make an attempt at being like, okay, well, you're kind of like a piece of shit in person apart from the show. And I feel like they kind of like cherry pick who to bring on because they know what people will be like really happy to just be with Ellen and which people will try to like tear down her character, which I feel like they have a lot of people have tried to, but I feel like the show, the executives are terrified of that happening, so they want to make sure they only bring like people with positive moods, like positive vibes.
On the Ellen show for quite some time now, disclosed to BuzzFeed that they had taken a month-long medical leave to seek treatment at a mental health facility after a suicide attempt. However, like many others, upon their return to work, they were informed they no longer had a job. So much to being kind to others, right? Another former employee even told BuzzFeed they were reprimanded for creating a—
I just imagine Ellen Ellen got the news herself about them trying to like kill themselves, and they were like, what a dweeb.
24 hours after posting the GoFundMe, they were summoned to the head office and forced to take it down. Why? Because it might hurt Ellen's brand. Obviously, the Be Kind message does not really extend to staff members. The persona, as Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung famously noted, is the social face individuals present to the world. It is, he said, a kind of mask, designed on the one hand to make a definite impression upon others, and on the other to conceal the true nature of the individual. For decades.
I'm pretty sure he made that statement right after he watched one episode of The Ellen Show.
And we all know the unflattering, ugly truth. No one will ever look at her the same way again.
She really is one of those people that God himself like molded her face to stay the same way ever since he was a kid.
Speaking of convincing masks that have slipped off, now it's time to discuss Jerry Seinfeld, one of the rudest individuals known in Hollywood. Throughout the years, Seinfeld had prided himself in providing viewers with inoffensive, curse-free comedy. On stage, he is squeaky clean, a beacon of family-friendly entertainment. Off stage, however, there's...
To be honest, you're gonna have to respect that one side where you're like a horrible person in reality, but then when you're on stage, you can be really happy. I feel like that takes like a lot of mental fortitude to do that. I mean, like, people like David Goggins, I feel like people like Jerry Seinfeld, the real warriors.
Off stage. The lead character in the legendary show Seinfeld came away from that show with one of the biggest egos known in Hollywood, which is an impressive feat to achieve. And it's probably this narcissism that led to his success, but it seemed to get worse over time. I mean, you can't really talk about Seinfeld without discussing the now infamous conversation with Larry King. You see, following the passing of King in 2021, a video from a 2007 interview with Jerry quickly resurfaced. In this particular clip, Jerry seemed noticeably upset by Larry's insinuation that Seinfeld had been cancelled. Consequently, an uncomfortable and impolite exchange ensued. And despite Jerry's assertion that this incident...
To be honest, when you have a show named after your last name, it does instill that arrogance in you.
Jerry was genuinely angry.
Imagine how much money they made. I'm pretty sure I heard one fact that for every episode they air is like $1 million. Even if it's not true, it's probably around that same area.
You're not aware of this?
No, I'm asking you.
You think I got canceled? Are you under the impression that I got canceled?
Have I hurt you, Jerry?
I thought that was pretty well documented.
Don't
This is
most shows
is this still
go there.
CNN?
Don't-
I was the #1 show on television, Larry.
You were all-
Do you know who I am?
But in this whole clip, we see another side to Seinfeld, one that wasn't seen much before, an unlikable bully verbally abusing an old elderly man. And if in doubt about this, just ask a man by the name of Eric Nederlander. Jerry is married to Jessica, but before marrying the comedian, Jessica was married to Mr. Nederlander. And as reported by Nikki Swift, when Jerry started pursuing her, Jessica was still married to Nederlander. Many on the media felt Jerry had snatched Jessica away from a less renowned individual, which undoubtedly aligned with Nederlander's viewpoint. In an interview with the New York Post, Eric said, quote, "I was manipulated, misled, and completely caught off guard by Jessica's infidelity. Jerry and Jessica have no respect for decent values. They deserve each other. I'm gonna go on with my life." And his anger is kind of understandable. After all, when Jerry met Jessica, she had just returned from a 3-week honeymoon with Eric. In other words, she had just walked down the aisle when Seinfeld swooped in to take her. Now, of course, Jessica is as much to blame as Jerry here, but it takes two to tango and already takes two to orchestrate an affair like this. But this wasn't Jerry's first time at the controversial romance rodeo. Rather creepily, when Seinfeld was 38, he was dating a 17-year-old high school girl. A quote from Seinfeld, "I don't think about the age issue. She doesn't, my friends don't." This seedy side doesn't really sync very well with his onstage and on-screen.
I like how he says like she doesn't mind, my friends don't either, as if they're not terrified of him just punching them in the face with the way like he was so aggressive with Larry King.
Mr. Appropriate seems kind of inappropriate. On Reddit, one user posted, "I was seated behind the famous comedian Jerry Seinfeld on an international flight and overheard him casually mention beating up his friend in 4th grade. The friend in question was a short, respectable, bald fellow with obvious self-esteem issues. Could Jerry...
What, a short, bespectacled, bald? You mean a midget? How can you be in the 4th grade and be bald, and short, and bespectacled?
Complex and deep self-esteem issues mixed with narcissism? Is this what Hollywood rewards? The most fake bullying of all rise to the top? And is this friend really his friend, or is he just a lifelong victim and target for Jerry's abuse and
I don't
ridicule?
think you need an anecdote that you heard on a plane of him being a bully. I think when you just see one clip of him on camera being like just very arrogant, you can tell what kind of person he is already. I mean, of course, you can be like a bit like psychological and like read stories about him from other people that actually worked with him, but I feel like it's really weird to script ground for these random stories like, oh my god, can you believe that this random story from like 20 years ago ago might have like contributed to like how he is today. I mean, I'm not saying just because he was a bully back then, he's gonna become a good person now, or he was. But just because that post was on Reddit, I like to imagine that person loved Jerry Seinfeld up until like they heard that story on the plane. Like they ignored all of the other clips on TV and saw him as a good person until he overheard that.
Seinfeld does have a reputation for being an insufferable soul. The actor who plays Phoebe from Friends revealed an interesting incident involving Seinfeld and a debt of gratitude she supposedly owed him. According to Seinfeld, the success of Friends, the biggest sitcom of the 90s and early 2000s, had a lot to do with him, and she recounted how she met the comedian at a social gathering, but he unexpectedly uttered the words, "You're welcome." Perplexed by this remark, she inquired why the thank you was, where Seinfeld proceeded to explain that her show was scheduled to air after his own during the summer, suggesting that this tragic placement was the key factor behind Friends' growing viewership, not the great dialogue, the memorable storylines, or unforgettable characters. And this ties in with Seinfeld's aforementioned ego. Just look at this interview clip where he completely brushes off Kesha and refuses to even touch her in front of the cameras, embarrassing her.
Oh, his teeth are really white.
I love you so much.
Oh, thanks.
Can I give you a hug?
You know how people in SWAT teams have like flashlight at the end of the guns, just blind people? That's him right now. Like she walked in like, oh my god, oh, my eyes.
At the time, not that long ago, that Jimmy Fallon was considered the nicest man on TV. But like Ellen and Jerry Seinfeld,
you know, with him, I was shocked because I got him confused with the other guy, Jimmy Kimmel. Well, I kind of like he seems like a decent person, but I can imagine this guy being a nerd.
Today, we're slowly
you know, he's the one guy. Oh, look, it's Joaquin Phoenix. How do you say his name? Joaquin Phoenix, that's the guy. He seems like the guy that was bullied by Jerry Seinfeld in 4th grade.
Inside Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show. And according to this damning piece, which involved interviews with current and former staffers, the on-screen Fallon is...
Oh my, is that part of the uniform? Wearing really gay, like, lumberjack shirts, whatever you call that fashion.
Staffers, the on-screen Fallon is the polar opposite of the off-screen, something he has in common with Ellen and Jerry Seinfeld, and almost everyone in Hollywood. A fake plastic, charismatic facade, and a deeply insecure, narcissistic dark side. The piece claimed that Fallon, as many suspected...
I don't really believe that phrase that the eyes are a window to the soul, but with him, it almost makes me believe in it.
With a tendency to have sudden outbursts on any given day. On-screen Jimmy is known for his explosive bursts of fake laughter. Off-screen Jimmy is known for his explosive bursts of real anger. The employees, according to the Rolling Stone piece, were subjected to verbal abuse, with numerous individuals stating that The Tonight Show was the most toxic work environment they had ever experienced in their careers. Although the issues were reported to the management, they often remained unsolved, as the showrunners, 9 individuals in 9 years, were unable to tame Fallon. The dressing rooms were comedy...
To be fair, I mean, not to be fair, but he is like the main guy on the show. With someone, if you're just like a small employee, there really is no chance to kind of fight back, which I feel bad for, of
saying,
course.
Quote, "Sorry if I embarrassed you and your friends. I feel so bad I can't even tell you." But his treatment of staff was reportedly so bad that the aforementioned Jerry Seinfeld reportedly made him apologize. Now, if Jerry Seinfeld of all people is encouraging you to apologize, then something really bad must have happened. Although the Rolling Stone article shocked many readers, Fallon's dark side has been a poorly kept secret for years. Quote, "He's a mess, and he has been for well over a decade. Fallon has long been plagued by rumors surrounding his substance use. According to a report by the New York Post in 2015, NBC had concerns about Fallon due to his...
Not just drinking. Come on, that's lame. If there's not a clip of him shooting up heroin on stage, then I don't care.
Barbara in April 2014. According to Fallon's former SNL castmate, Horatio Sanz, the duo were super functioning alcoholics, definitely. Sanz would later be accused of sexual assault, and Fallon, his close friend, was reported to actually enable the abuse by acknowledging it but never saying anything about it, although these are just allegations. In addition to all of this, Fallon is just an absolute phony. Every time you watch one of his interviews, it always just makes you feel weird, how fake and scripted it feels. Fallon isn't a real person. During this 2019 interview with Steve Martin and Martin Short, Short said, quote,
"Congratulations. But this is the greatest show on television because there is no host in late night that pretends to care the way you do." Thank you. And I love that. Isn't he amazing? And I love that so much. Oh, no.
Fallon then proceeded to thank him profusely.
Was that a jab at him being like, you're so genuine, you feel so natural? He's like, oh my god, thank you.
So later in the same interview, Short sarcastically heaped praise on Fallon for deciding to abandon the comedy, before adding that he was impressed with Fallon's clean image.
You have such a clean image. I mean, and it's hard to do in today's world. I suggest that whatever you're paying the National Enquirer, you should double it.
That is so nice. Brave of you, 5 years in, and to decide suddenly to abandon the comedy format.
And these comments are coming from someone that Fallon knows very well. Both come from Saturday Night Live. Speaking of which, in May 2020...
Okay, these guys were trolls, so I have to respect that. You have to be pretty bold to make fun of someone live on camera, because whenever he brings like a random person on the show, that is the first time they've met him, so there's not really a good way they can get like an impression of him or what he's like in person. Of course, when he's doing like all the fake laughter, like moving around so much, like, so of course they're not gonna go right off the bat and be like, I kind of don't like you. But the fact that it was two guys that he knew well before the show, and even knew before he got big and kind of like the ego, it really makes you appreciate it way more. Also, I really like the way they did it. Well, they didn't like flat out say they don't like how fake he is. They supported it by making it seem like a compliment, which is so clearly not true, but he carried off on that by acting more fake, which supported their reason like way more, like unintentionally.
Fallon impersonated Chris Rock, and in the sketch, Fallon, a virtue signaling plastic, empty, pretending to care about social issues person, wore blackface. And although Fallon was quick to apologize,
I was about to say, I think it was Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon that wore blackface as like a basketball short.
now Fallon might not be over yet, but the idea of him being the nicest man on TV certainly is. But luckily, he hasn't had a fall quite as dramatic as James Corden, another late night heavyweight with a reputation amongst the worst in Hollywood, with the British comedian appearing to be even more fake and more of a phony than Fallon. You see, in 2022,
And he's fat. That's the main reason why I don't like him.
Banned from a well-known restaurant in New York City. The owner accused him of being abusive to his staff over order errors. Corden allegedly became
Of course it was him that got pissed off at the wrong order.
drinks, and that the restaurant covered the cost of all the drinks he had up until that point. He was, it seems, quite literally drunk on his own power, which isn't all that surprising considering that all of these...
With someone like him, with his stature, I feel like it would take like 3 kegs to get him drunk, and he's like, pay it off, you f my
According to
order.
the same report, Corden was out for lunch with his wife Julia Carey. Chaos ensued after his wife asked for an egg yolk omelette with cheese and salad. And after a ride with a little bit of egg white mixed with the egg yolk, Corden, clearly unhappy, sent it back. And when the kitchen remade his wife's omelette, they added a side of home fries instead of salad. That's when all hell broke loose. And quote, Corden began yelling like crazy to the server, according to the owner of the restaurant. "You can't do your job, maybe I should just go into the kitchen and cook the omelette myself," screamed Corden.
Yeah, why
In
don't
addition
you,
to
huh?
being overly aggressive and rude, Corden has been accused of
I feel like most celebrities are as big as him, though makes like basic skills like cooking, because they don't have to if they go eat out every night.
using my material.
And it came down like that, and I really panicked. I thought, this is it, I'm too young to die, what's happening? And as it came down like that, right at the last minute, I went, "Oi, mate." And he went, "What is it?"
I find the best way to get out of being mugged, if someone tries to mug you, is just immediate. So if someone comes up and goes, "Give me your wallet, man, give me your phone," just go, "You're never gonna believe what's happened." If you just go,
Stuff like that.
"Never gets mugged." Honestly, if someone goes, "Give, hand over your thing," go, "I'm not gonna."
Tweeting an explosive allegation from a fan that Corden had totally stolen a joke of his. More recently, Corden expressed his sincere apologies to his fellow countryman and comedian Ricky Gervais.
No, not Ricky Gervais. I don't like him as much, but I don't hate him, as much as Corden.
Town square that says guitar lessons available, like you don't get people in the town going, "I don't want to play guitar, I want to play the piano, you piece of." Well, that sign wasn't for you, it was for somebody else. You don't have to get mad about all of it. James's joke was a literal word-for-word copy of Gervais's joke that he made back in 2018.
That's like going into a town square, seeing a big notice board, and there's a notice, guitar lessons, and you go, "But I don't f***ing want guitar lessons." Fine, it's not for you then, just walk away.
And even if this was just one of his writers doing this,
That wasn't even a good joke. Like, it was a joke, but it probably wasn't the best on set. So I want to see why he wants. I want to see how he twists it to make it reasonable to steal. Not reasonable, but why he wants to steal in the first place.
claiming the TV star and comic regularly berated and cursed the staff while hosting a League of Their Own, an incredibly popular British game show. What the f is going on here? James reportedly asked the director and other staffers during filming for the show. "You put a camera here, you put a camera there. It's so obvious how you shoot it, you're stupid." In truth though, Corden is the stupid one. Stupid for
Yeah, how
thinking.
dare you put a camera there, there, and there? How dare you be organized and make a good show?
That's why when he didn't ask me anything on Reddit, it ended up just being a total disaster, with everyone bringing up the real truth about who he is. In it, he was completely faced the dark side of his character. Not everyone's gonna suck up to him like he's always expected, and people on Reddit showed him that. However, when it comes to abhorrent behavior, there is one man who takes the biscuit, and his name is Chevy Chase. Chase. Chevy Chase.
I know
is a
Chevy
comedy
Chase.
legend,
No, I
star of
don't.
iconic
He's the one
shows
person I only know because people hate him.
as well as National Lampoon's Vacation film series, achieving Hollywood royalty. Nevertheless, the 80-year-old comedian and actor has garnered a reputation for being one of the most difficult people to work with in Hollywood.
Yeah, I got scared because I saw he was Larry David for a second, which I actually like way more.
Really awful person.
There's a show of his I want to see. It's like, I can't remember what it's called, but I don't want to watch it.
Bill Murray. During the production of an episode in 1978, the incident took place in the dressing room of their co-star, John Belushi. Conflict arose when Murray allegedly made a disrespectful remark about Chase's troubled marriage with Jacqueline Carlin. So in response, Chase criticized Murray's physical appearance, leading to a heated confrontation between the two, which sounds completely juvenile. In 1985, during another appearance in SNL, Chase managed to irritate Robert Downey Jr. by making a derogatory comment about his deceased father, allegedly asking the Iron Man star, "Didn't your father used to be a successful director?" before adding, "Whatever happened to him? Boy, he sure died, you know, he sure went to hell." And yet in 2009,
Who's that guy, the comedian?
and the lead role in NBC's sitcom Community.
Norm Macdonald. That sounds like a joke he would make. Like, man, he sure lied, didn't he? Like being very direct, but as a joke, and now offensive like he
That
did.
would make the most self-respecting people blush. In 2022, Chase told CBS Sunday Morning that he didn't care about headlines and former co-stars painting him as a nightmare to work with on set, but he really should kind of care, as Chase's behavior was described by co-stars as horrific over the years. "I guess you'd have to ask them," Chase replied, after being asked if stories about him being a jerk were accurate. "I don't give a crap. I am who I am, and I like who I am. I don't care. And it's part of me that I don't care. And I've thought about that a lot, and I don't know what to tell you, man. I just really don't care." Donald Glover.
I just don't care. I just don't care. Saying it like 5 times shows that he doesn't care.
Chase in the hit sitcom, and his time alongside Chase was, by all appearances, a troubling one. In 2018, he told The New Yorker that Chase repeatedly made racist jokes directly to his face on set. According to the Salacious profile, Chase often tried to.
Oh, please tell me they were like edgy high school jokes, like where he's saying he's cool by saying N-words with the black guy that he sees as his
The
friend.
2002 book Live from New York, an uncensored history of Saturday Night Live, includes several unflattering anecdotes about Chase's toxic behavior. Will Ferrell, a man not known for making serious allegations, called Chase the worst host of SNL he has ever had the misfortune of working with. I don't know if he was on something or what, if he took too many black pills that day or something, but he was just kind of going around the room and systematically riffing. Ferrell commented, "When he got to one of our female writers, he made some references like, 'Maybe you can give me a hand later.' When Will Ferrell is lashing out at you, then perhaps it's time
Like,
to
I want to know the context, not because I think it's a funny joke, but I want to see like what triggered his brain to say that.
Uses continuously bad behavior throughout the years. But this sort of thing does seem deeply ingrained in Hollywood culture. That's why these people are such predators all the time. During an interview with Howard Stern, Pete Davidson, who knew Chase during his SNL days, also echoed Ferrell's sentiments, but in a more explosive manner. "Chevy Chase," he said, "he's just a genuinely bad racist person and I don't like him." And he's not the only one who doesn't like Chase. A man
He's
who
a
for
putz?
decades made many people
What does that
laugh with his
mean,
on-screen antics,
putz?
but also probably made quite a few cry with his off-screen comments. And this is just the tip of the iceberg in Hollywood. There are far more serious examples. I'm talking about the criminals, the people really running the show behind Hollywood. And in the future, we will get around to discussing them.
No boy, I can't wait. I can't wait to see people who are 10 times worse than this and don't really have to give an effort to put a good persona because they don't really have fans. I want to see that. At the end of the day, I think the saddest part is that the fuel that drives these people to be massive and to the level they are now, it's just like the ignorant fans that love who they are and just completely dismiss anything else people say about them, like off camera. Like, it feels so real, but there are people who probably like heard that stuff about Ellen or Chevy Chase and just don't care because they love them so much for like the show or movies they did like a long time ago, because those people do exist where they watch like the earlier movies a long time ago and they still have like that die-hard fan mindset where they'll defend whatever they do. The only reoccurring thing I've seen these people, apart from just being bad people in general, is that they seem kind of like a bit older. Like I've noticed with young celebrities, when they have like an allegation about them being horrible in person, they get cancelled way more by their own fans. Where I feel like people who are a bit older have a more mature audience, which might sound good, but then like I said, they're more willing to reject that stuff they say about them being horrible. And plus, most of these people on this video are way past their prime, so they don't really have to worry about like starting a career where they have to make the best impression possible with people they know. Like they've already made so much money that even if their show got cancelled, like with Ellen, they can still live off like the money they've saved up or have invested somewhere else. Like it really is the peak of being egotistical and not caring what you do, because you know you're so rich that even people cancel you on like on Twitter or whatever, it doesn't matter because you've still got like a shit funny. The only thing that brings me comfort is that there are people who are kind of like the opposite like them, where they seem like bad people, but then you hear stories of like their fans meme them and they're like the nicest person like, in the world. Like Adam Sandler, for the longest time I thought he was gonna be a prick, but then I heard stories about like from fans about how he was always really nice when they first met. So I think there's always gonna be like a small sect of like fame where there will always be people who are nice throughout the career. Like they never really get the ego cut to their head because they don't have that nature in them, so they'll always be nice no matter what stage of life they're at. So I'm glad that there will always be like a small sect of people that are still like nice at heart in the mess that is Hollywood.